um, it says at the end of the memo, I appreciate the time this will take and simply ask for a response back within 30 days. So I asked him, I gave him the time. So he wasn't delaying getting back to me on the memo. But near the end of the 30-day period is when I got that memo from him. It says, and this was at my desk, and again, I don't know why he didn't want to email it, but it's a hard copy hand-delivered at the bottom.
But
It says, well, hold on, it says, your memo of October 21 does not provide sufficient cause to conduct the investigation requested. So he, I mean, I said in my comments, I mean, it was very clear to me he didn't want to look into it. So he says, however, right, if you provided Solicitor Leeson and to Mr. Evans the information you relied upon to justify the memo, I'm willing to reconsider based on their advice. On their advice, not on his own sense of right or wrong. So listen, I have no legal right to question and call in. I mean, I couldn't even get him into executive session to discuss it. So I don't know how he expects me to. I have no right. I mean, under what mode am I going to be calling in Ms. Carner and the department members to ask them the question? It's not my job. Those are his employees. It's his director. So for him to put that back on me,
well, just the top of your speech right here, it says in response to Mayor Donchez's statement to council.
right.
The statement was to council was addressing more than just that investigation.
Well, at that time, I couldn't. At that time,
But his what he had taken issue was not only that talked about the investigation, but the RFP process
right.
involved with the Polk Street. And he sent out a statement to that effect, taking
right.
issue with some of the comments that you said.
I think the statement that he released today is trying to deflect from my press conference today, because they're two different issues.
They are, but his statement was based in part on what you said
right.
about the Polk Street to November
right.
6th.
But I said during the council meeting, I said, in my opinion, it's unethical. Referring to not only what I heard, if true, I believe if this was true, it was unethical, and I was referring to both matters.
Do you want to address what you've done to try to find out answers?
So you know, in the aftermath of the Allentown and Reading situation, right? You would think that everybody in city government would be a little bit more aware of anything that they do, right? So he said in his statement that he said an agency is obligated to offer their opinion, and it was not, this is the mayor's comments, it was not unethical, it was their role, okay? I think that I think he's right in the fact that he created an ad hoc committee and they came up with their opinion. It was not unanimous, I do know that. They submitted their recommendation to the Parking Authority. What I believe, in my opinion, what I thought was unethical was making a phone call to the board members, or a couple board members, the day of the vote, and telling them that they can renegotiate the price.
Are you saying any public official within the city administration would have or even the mayor himself, would
well,
have a problem
I don't think
a board member to talk about their opinion on a certain...
I don't think it's a problem I don't think it would have been a problem if it would have been stated that you can renegotiate. I mean, you got to remember something. There's a piece of property for sale, right? Mm-hmm. All right. And one entity gave $200,000 more than another entity. And there was also CRIS money involved in it, right? So I think it would have been fair if she would have said to both, you know, that you can renegotiate with both entities, not just one. I mean, why direct it? Why did, you know, I know it was her preferred entity, but why just tell the couple of board members you can renegotiate?
Have you reported this to anyone, or
no? I mean,
formal complaint?
The mayor knows. You know, and again, I'm not even concerned about that issue right now. I know that's what the mayor's release was. I don't know if that was to deflect of what today is. This thing here has been eating at me for some time, because it's not only, again, if true, right? And that's all I was asking him to do, was look into it, if it was true or not. I don't know. I'm telling you what I heard, and I'm telling you, hey, there's also a blogger out there, right, who, I mean, if you look at his track record, he's pretty accurate with stuff. So my whole point in trying to mention Mr. O'Hare was, this isn't something that just willy-nilly just came to me. I mean, there's a lot of talk out there. So I'm telling you, I sat on it for a couple months and did nothing with it. And I eventually had a conversation with the mayor, and nothing was done. And I honestly thought in my mind that after I mentioned it to him, maybe he'd get back to me. I mean, I've mentioned things to him before, and he got back to me within a few days and said, Brian, hey, this is what happened. So, no problem, Mayor. Thank you. I never heard back. So that's when I asked to go to executive session. I was denied. That's when I asked City Council to go to executive session. If you look back at when I started getting a little bit of a tone, and I admit I did get a tone, it was right at that time. I mean, I've been on council for 6 years, right? I think my tone started last summer when I know it did, because I was so angry that I was being, what I felt, I was being put off and stonewalled over this. And it wasn't something willing. I mean, let's think about what's going on here, okay? So, if true, right? And that's all I was asking to do, was just find out. And I was trying to keep this quiet. And if the mayor thinks that I wasn't, I don't want to be here right now. I don't. But I had no choice after his comments to me, directed at me. He didn't name my name, but everybody knows he was directing the comments at me. At that point, for him to say it was unwarranted, and whatever else his comments were, the mayor knew where I was and how upset I was. And I was trying to keep it quiet. And from that point on, that's when I walked over to, the bloggers and reporters in a room, and I shared the memos. Because at that point, I thought him accusing me I mean, he said it was an attack on Miss Carter. I mean, I'm sitting in my seat, and if asking a direct, pointed question, did you call the board members? That's all I asked, and she didn't answer. So I don't know how, if I can't get him into executive session, right, and he won't answer the questions, and the memo that he returned back to me in reply to my October 17th memo was basically telling me, he didn't look into it. I mean, it's basically what I got from it, right? So I sat there for a while, for probably about 40 minutes during that meeting, and I can't tell you what happened in the meeting, because I was thinking like where do I go from here? Do I let it go, or do I move it a step higher? And the problem was that I came down to is this: if it's true, and I don't know if it is, but if it's true that she did direct those employees to do that, to stall, delay, postpone all permits, and that's what I heard what was going on from residents out in the field. She was hurting people who were waiting for the permits. And if the end goal was to hire more employees, I think it was doing harm to the taxpayers of the city of Bethlehem. Those 3 employees, from what I'm told, wanted to continue to keep working hard and processing the permits the way they had them, and the way they always had been. So I don't know, I did not know what to do.